Welcome to Durham Region. Bienvenidos a la región de Durham.
Welcome to Durham.
Welcome to Durham.
أهلا وسهلا بدرهم.
Welcome to Durham.
Hello, welcome to Durham.
Hi, I'm Roger Anderson, and this is the region of Durham. The region of Durham is growing, with an anticipated population of 1 million in just a few short years. Much of that growth is expected to come from immigration, and the people working in industries and offices across the region are changing. And this change brings new markets, new skills, and new ideas, creating opportunities we cannot afford to overlook. Many businesses in Durham region already know this, and others have just begun to think about it. Workplaces that create opportunities for everyone to use their skills and freely share their ideas do not happen on their own. We make choices about our workplace cultures and about how we communicate. Communications is tricky under any circumstances, and cross-cultural communications is even more so.
The Ajax Pickering Board of Trade has just over 600 members representing the 200,000 residents of the Ajax and Pickering area. 30% of our community identifies as a newcomer, and it's a statistic that employers can't afford to ignore.
It does allow you that opportunity to pull in more expertise, and that's what it's all about, making sure everybody has it. And part of the partnership is we're understanding more and more that businesses don't understand the immigration process. So it's a good working relationship that we can educate and help promote that, and the immigration portal provides the information. So going to the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, we didn't expect the resolution to get as an overwhelming response as it did, but people are now getting the understanding of it, that we need to take a look at new immigrants. We need to ensure that they understand us and we understand them.
The local advice that I will give to a local employer is that the most innovative and the most economic successful regions worldwide are the ones that are the most diverse. So do not hesitate to hire international trained professionals.
These are exciting times. Like the rest of the world, the Canadian workplace is changing. There are people from around the world sharing space, sharing ideas, and working together. This creates tremendous opportunities for innovation, creativity, new perspectives, new partners, and new investment. Global experiences are influencing and shaping our workplace. Global workforces are complex. There is opportunity for confusion and misunderstanding. That leads to a loss of innovation, wastes time, impacts the bottom line, and the workplace cultures of organizations. Communication is vital. Communication norms are different around the world and even between provinces. Take the time between sentences, for example.
So one difference we see a lot is how much silence is there between two people speaking. The typical communication pattern in Canada is one person speaks, then there's a little silence, which means over to you, I'm done. And then we kind of go back and forth, okay? Like a ping pong game. Only one person speaks at a time, the silence is relatively short to indicate you're engaged, and we go back and forth. People in East Asia, and also First Nations, the silence is usually much longer within these groups, okay? So, for example, when I worked for Xerox, we used to have conference calls with Fuji Xerox all the time. And what do you think happens when people who follow this communication pattern speak to people who follow that communication pattern? Yeah, we end up speaking the whole time. The other thing that happens is we end up asking them, "Are you there?" all the time. Why? Because we asked we asked a question and we get no answer. And so our interpretation is the line is down. All right? How do you think East Asians or Aboriginal people judge this behavior? What does it mean to them? To them, it means you haven't really given any thought to what I said. You were starting to think about what you were going to answer even before I was finished. What happens in Latin America or Latin Europe? Well, there, everybody speaks at the same time. The idea in Latin countries is as soon as I understand where you're going, I will start speaking to show you I'm engaged, to show you I'm interested. In France, the highest form of listening is what I would call reflective speaking. 3/4 into your sentence, I will start saying the same words with the same tone at the same pace as you do.
The timing of how we speak is one thing. Gestures are quite another.
Okay gesture, thumb and 2 fingers. In North America, it means okay or all good. In Egypt, it means trouble. In France, it means 0 or worthless. In Japan, it means money. Smiling at a stranger. In North America, it is considered friendly. In Asia, it means you are embarrassed. In France, it is considered suspicious. Nodding your head up and down. In North America, it can mean yes or so what if slightly aggressive. In the Middle East, moving the head up indicates disagreement, and moving the head down indicates agreement. In Africa, it also means no.
Misunderstandings can happen quickly and without intention. Cadence, hang time, and gestures. How about saying what we mean and meaning what we say?
Acronyms can really confuse people. The best example I can give you is STD. What does that stand for? Well, in Canada, it typically stands for sexually transmitted disease, unless you're in HR, where it's short-term disability. In India, STD stands for subscriber trunk dialing. So it's a long-distance telephone call.
Key lesson I've learned about workplace communication would be, particularly in an IT field, would be to ensure that your acronyms are spelled out so there's not a miscommunication of what you're trying to say and the individual receiving it are getting. If we're not clear, we're going to implement something that will not function in the way that our business clients want. And we need to be clear in both how we're giving our direction and ensure the recipient is understanding that direction.
One key lesson I've learned about workplace communication is that very frequently in the workplace we use a lot of acronyms, especially in education. And we assume that everybody that we're talking to also knows the full meaning of our acronyms, and this is not always the case. And this creates a lot of miscommunication when people aren't entirely sure what we're talking about around a table, or don't feel that they can participate in a discussion because they've been excluded since they don't know the meaning of the particular acronyms being used. And this is something I think is endemic in all fields.
One thing that I recognize as being, I think, surprising for newcomers when they first enter the Canadian workplace is that there's a lot of language and phraseology that is being used that isn't necessarily as common as they might have expected. It's not been in the ESL textbooks, turns of phrase and other things like that. I do know also, though, that the Canadian workplace as a whole really recognizes that there's a lot of challenges to newcomers when they first arrive and wants them to succeed, because as they succeed, so too will the employer.
At the time I came to Canada, I don't know what double means. So I thought, what does double? I thought it's a type of drink. So when I order things, I was on the line in the coffee shop, and then people always say, I want a medium double, I want a large double. I was thinking, what is that?
So one of the most important things for people to do when they enter a new workplace and they're from a different culture is to try to get a mentor in the workplace, one that they can truly trust, that will give them really honest feedback.
The advice that I'd give to local employers hiring internationally trained professionals is don't be afraid.
I think it's really important that we remember that settlement integration is a journey, and it takes a long time for some people to make that journey, and others it's quite short. And I remember one of the most impactful things I ever heard my mother say was that although being employed within days of arriving in Canada, and she did know English, although English was her second language, it took her 10 years before she got a joke. And that really helped to frame my learning going forward for the next 5 years while I've been working in this area, because I thought, wow, 10 years before you got a joke, that's a long time to pretend you get it, and to sit in the lunchroom and to pretend that you're part of something. And I know that story inspired me to think differently about people's journey and to respect it as individual, and that it is, in fact, really, really personal.
One example would be every other Tuesday at the library, we have a conversation circle for people who want to practice French. Well, I was really surprised when half the people who showed up, French for them was a third or a fourth or a fifth language. So what we're seeing, I think, is that, again, a global perspective where people are learning multiple languages, they're living in multiple places, and I think the more welcoming Durham can be, the better for everyone.
So you come here and you're an engineer, but you don't know Durham region, and you don't even know when it comes to hiring and some of the communication gaps that might be happening even in the interview process. So while we expect the newcomers to educate themselves on those cultural differences, we also hope that the employers will, because otherwise they won't benefit from those opportunities.
I wish I had known just the importance of networking at the time, because in Ghana, sometimes there's a negative twist to networking, because when you network, it can be interpreted as you're forcing yourself on people. But in Canada, networking is really important. It's the tool to get around.
As an employer, cross-cultural communications is so important. The return on investment is immediate and obvious.
They need to know how valuable our international hires are to us. We need these people. We need people to come and work here. And so we need to make it an attractive place to come, and that means having a welcoming environment in the workplace.
As members of a welcoming community, it is important to give people the benefit of the doubt. Share information to avoid confusion, and when unsure, ask.
This is one key lesson that I have learned about communication in the workplace is that no matter how you speak or how you do not understand at first, people in the region, it is always helpful, and they will help you with your barriers. So do not be afraid of keep asking the same questions all over again, because they are very, very helpful.
This video project was funded through Ontario's Municipal Immigration Information Online Program. www.durhamimmigration.ca is supported by the Ontario Government with support from the Government of Canada.